If we get in one of these exponential bubbles in 2025, and I see that we may get into one, right? There are a lot of elements for us to get into one. Trump getting elected, the adoption of a Bitcoin standard, the change in the SEC, Dubai starting to stack Bitcoin. There could be a number of catalysts that really bring us into like a full-blown just mania trend like we had in 2017. And if we do get into that, I don't think math tells us really, yeah, we're going to stop at 200,000, 250,000, or 300,000. We might go to 500,000.
Krueger speculates on the potential for another massive Bitcoin bubble forming in 2025, driven by various catalysts. These include the re-election of Donald Trump, the growing adoption of a Bitcoin standard by institutions and possibly governments, such as Dubai, and changes in the regulatory environment, particularly a more Bitcoin-friendly SEC. If these elements converge, the next Bitcoin bull run could exceed expectations, possibly driving prices as high as $500,000.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
What about the sort of the length of the bull market, right? Well, I think what happens in these bull markets, and we've had three of them, it's not an enormous amount of data, right? We have three bull markets, is that we have a very unsustainable exponential rise. And it really is exponential, and I think Giovanni's pointed this out very well. It's going up by 1% per day, and it's this sort of exponential thing. The bubble will pop, you know it's going to pop, and it does pop. The problem is you just don't know when it's going to pop. But if you get into this kind of hyper-frenzied vertical movement like we've had in 2017, you know it will pop, you just don't know when. And unfortunately, the power law, I don't think, tells you really that much about when it's going to pop, because we still haven't had enough bubbles, and I think they're just notoriously hard to time, in my opinion. And I'm not sure the math does that much of good in terms of when bubbles will pop. And I think that's true with Bitcoin. I think that's true with smoking chicken fish or NVIDIA. I don't know. There's a lot of bubbles that happen, and you know they're a bubble, but you just can't tell when they're going to pop. So the answer is I don't know. And I think if we get in one of these exponential bubbles in 2025, and I see that we may get into one, right? There are a lot of elements for us to get into one. Trump getting elected, the adoption of a Bitcoin standard, the change in the SEC, Dubai starting to stack Bitcoin. There could be a number of catalysts that really bring us into like a full-blown just mania trend like we had in 2017. And if we do get into that, I don't think math tells us really, yeah, we're going to stop at 200,000 or 250,000 or 300,000. We might go to 500,000. Now, I do think the math tells us with the power law that kind of 500,000 would be kind of the top in the next couple of years. Why? Because 500,000 would be kind of 2 times trend line, and we've never seen any of the previous bubbles go beyond 2 times trend line. Just doesn't seem likely. And it does seem that if anything, the percentage to trend line seems to be diminishing. So I would say 500,000 would be a high. It's still within the power law. It's not like all our models are going to be broken because you hit 500,000. But it could happen, right? And if it happens, when it breaks, I do suspect that just like any bubble, we will revert back down through the trend line and we will stabilize at something like one standard deviation down below. And that would be just extremely painful. That would be a 75% retracement from the high. It's going to be brutal. On the other hand, maybe we don't have one of these speculative bubbles. We're not in one now, right? We are 20% below trend line right now. We are getting some much more rational players come into this market than in the 2017 bubble. We are getting more sustainability than we had in the last bubble, where we had a lot of schemes like FTX and Do Kwon, which were unraveling and which were not sustainable. So, perhaps we don't get in this massive bubble behavior. So that's all. This is possible.
Krueger suggests that as Bitcoin matures and its market dynamics shift, we may not see the same rapid and explosive bull runs followed by dramatic collapses. Instead, the market could stabilize as more rational players rather than speculative actors dominate trading activity. Fred Krueger offers a nuanced perspective on Bitcoin's future, emphasizing that while past patterns, such as the 4-year cycle tied to halvings, have been useful predictors of market movements, they may not be as reliable in the future. The diminishing impact of halvings, combined with increased institutional adoption and liquidity, suggests that future bull markets might look different from those of the past.
We've been in a bull market now for about a year and a half. We started the bull market really in January of 2023. And here we are in October, so almost 2 years into the bull market. And, let's ask ourselves, can the power law or other analyses of past patterns tell us how high and how long are we going to go? Well, everybody in Bitcoin is obsessed with this idea of 4-year cycles. And the 4-year cycle idea is tied very strongly to this halving idea, and really is tied to the following data. So in the first halving, which was November of 2012, we had a bull market start shortly afterwards in January, February of 2013. And the bear market started in November of 2014. So 12 months after the first halving, the bear market started. The second halving started in July of 2016. And the bear market started in November of 2017. So 16 months later. And the third halving started in May of 2020. The bear market started in September of 2021. So again, 16 months later. So we have this phenomena of halvings happening every 4 years, and the bear markets happening every let's call it 12 to 16 months afterwards, right? So I think if you're going to just continue this logic, you would say, well, the fourth halving started in April of 2024, and so the bear market should start, 16 months later. That would put us in sort of August of 2025. Just keeping exactly with that timing. And I think a lot of people in Bitcoin are just obsessed with this for a lot of different reasons. And I think we really need to back down sort of the analysis here, because we can easily just get spooked with these three events. The halvings are programs, so they're every 4 years. And people sort of think, well, maybe the bear market is programmed right after the halving as well. And so I think really there's two fundamental questions, and I posted these in a Twitter tweet. The first question is, do we believe that the halvings are the creator of the bull markets? Do we believe that they are the fundamental reason that the bull markets are created? They have this amazing power of creating these bull markets. And second, do we believe that this bull market, like the last three, will end very quickly? Okay. So let's take these questions independently. Now, first question is the halvings. Are the halvings important? Well, I would argue the first halving and the second halving were very significant, right? Because they were an enormous amount of supply was reduced, and especially with the first halving, there wasn't an enormous market before the first halving, the enormous secondary market for Bitcoin. So this is really how Bitcoin was produced. And so when we had this massive supply shock, it made an enormous difference. If you go to now to 2028, there's going to be a supply shock, and I use the word supply shock in air quotes, of going from 450 Bitcoin to 225 Bitcoin. Now, perhaps the price of Bitcoin will be a lot higher, but still, we're talking 200 Bitcoin per day. This is nowhere near as much as it was, say, in 2016. At this point, 95% of the Bitcoin has been mined, and I think the impact of this supply shock of halving will not be as big. So it's just not clear that the next halving will create another bull market in the same sense. And I think what will create it is much more likely just liquidity and financial adoption by TradFi, right? And I'm not even sure of that, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that the mechanism of bull market is created by halving, not so clear, right?
As the market evolves, investors should be prepared for both the possibility of another speculative bubble, with prices soaring to as high as $500,000, and the risk of a severe correction afterward. However, if Bitcoin avoids another bubble and continues to gain adoption among more rational market participants, we may see a more sustainable growth trajectory moving forward. Ultimately, the future of Bitcoin remains uncertain, and while historical data provides some clues, new factors and market dynamics will play a significant role in shaping its price action in the years to come.
Please like and subscribe my channel.